Now it's 7:02, but we did start at 7:01. The meeting is duly constituted. Quorum is present. I call it to order and ask for the first item on the agenda, which is approval of the agenda.
So
I have a motion.
Your Worship, we do have a couple of amendments here.
Okay, let's just do the motion and the second and then discuss. Motion, thanks, second, okay. Lay it on us.
We want to include the minutes from the last policy and bylaw review committee.
That would be a first to include committee minutes in the meetings, in council minutes, but I'm not averse to it. But give us the backstory.
I think we have other minutes here, right?
Yeah, we do.
Do we? That's also
Board of
here.
Durance meeting.
Yeah.
Emergency services meeting. Yeah.
You're just receiving them.
Just receiving
We've never
some
done that
of them.
before. I'm actually liking the idea.
Yeah, no.
It
it's
just
good
brings
idea.
that information forward to council.
Yeah.
It's not really for discussion,
D2.
but it's for you all to inform
D2.
yourselves on
Just to get it in the minutes, yeah?
committees where you aren't.
Item 8D, II.
Aye.
Committees.
There you go.
Okay, so
Aye.
minutes of the, well, I'll just a policy and bylaw review. Okay, thank you. Anything
And
else?
that's the $10 a day plan that was discussed today at the committee of the whole meeting.
Is that unfinished business?
It was asked,
I guess
The
it
request
new-
was that it
It was
bring-
new last meeting, so I
brought
guess
forward.
it's unfinished.
But did it come to council last meeting or strategy committee?
it was only a delegation.
Okay, so that
Your
is,
call.
that's unfinished business, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah?
So 7B.
Could,
I'm asking
yeah.
still.
I would probably be inclined to put it under new business, but
Yeah, because it was first just a delegation. Yeah, you're right. New business. Sorry, Shauna. So that's a $10 a day childcare, what's it called?
$10 a day.
childcare plan, yes.
Childcare plan. Yep, good. 12A, yeah. Anything else?
You were going to do council dates?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Where do we want to do that? In staff reports? Resolutions?
It's pretty much new business too, isn't it?
I think that's new business
I
too.
think it is, yeah.
Okay. October meeting schedule? 6B.
Next council meeting schedule.
October meeting schedule. Yes, good, thank you. Anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Carries. Public participation.
Observation, we're just watching.
Fantastic.
Impressed.
We're learning.
Myron,
Okay.
you don't want to say anything yet?
No.
Okay. Delegations, there are none. We'll proceed to adoption of the minutes of the meeting of September 15th. I've got nothing.
Nothing.
I think.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adopt and a second? Further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Carries. Business arising. In our new action item presentation, we just go straight to page 7. And the first item is interim CAO Yansu to send a letter to Transport Canada to query what the options for train whistle cessation in Lions Bay would consist of.
Have not heard anything.
Not done. There's a small development there in that we were sent a reminder by the proponent, the resident who requested it in the first place. I responded, as you all saw, because you were all copied, and got a response from CN, from currently the National Policy Advisor, in the absence of a Regional Policy Advisor, because our person moved on. We all know what the answer is on paper, but there may be something to be done. So let's just see what developments are there. We do need that letter, and it does need
Yes.
to come from the municipality.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Right, the delegations, Mr. David Shaw, staff to craft a report to evaluate the existing suite of bylaws to see if a loophole exists against residential zoning. Council to then look at changing bylaws to close loopholes. I'm not exactly sure that was the wording that we approved in the minutes.
I thought it was going to go to the pilot.
It was,
policy.
it went to the
It's-
policy and bylaw
yeah.
committee review and.
It's already there.
It's already there,
Yeah.
and we're looking at a couple bylaws.
Yeah, I believe, Shauna, it doesn't really matter now, but I believe we changed the wording in the minutes to not reflect this wording that I see here.
Yes,
But
we did.
yeah, so maybe this isn't minutes, this is agenda, so that's fine, we'll leave it like it is. So the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee has it. I believe I was also tasked with writing a letter to the resident,
Yes.
to David
Yeah.
Shore. I've got it 95% drafted. I almost had it ready to send out today, but then I just wanted to play with it a little bit more.
Didn't you send him an email?
No, not after his delegation. Because it's coming from council, I want everybody to
Okay.
have a look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want staff to look at it, and I also want it run by legal counsel.
Okay.
Because I incorrectly handled that might bring undesirable consequences. Siren on Clat Building. Now I know this one was changed to siren somewhere.
Right. And,
Oh, and that's what it says.
and there's a report later on that speaks to that.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's
So as a technicality on the last item was staff will do all the legal stuff. You're handing it off to them.
yeah. Once we've opined and staff opined, I just wanted to clear it by
Are we
legal.
checking that one off, or is it a carryover?
The third one.
Yeah.
You can check it off because it's going to be reported on now. There may be business arising, but it will be a new item.
Correct.
Wildlife Working Group report. Staff to determine whether the Wildlife Working Group can be a community group or if it should be a committee of council.
There's a report in the agenda on that.
Okay, good. So you can knock that one done as well, Sean. New Bill Canada Fund and DFA funded works at MAG. Ms. Hoagland to research what contractor completed the previous construction of the rock wall and if the design included anchor bolts.
I don't believe that's been done.
Okay, we
I'm
need
not
to
sure.
allocate that to another staff member, or maybe it's in the records. The issue there is we've got to do it sooner rather than later. I should have actually brought the pictures. I was looking at them today. The issue there is that rock-clad wall was was eroded from the top, not the bottom. There was some undercutting from the stream, but if you look at the pictures, you can tell very well that it was overtopped. I would contend that rock bolts or not, its design should have withstood any overtopping. I can see it being inundated. I can see debris flow taking it out, but not overtopping. So we want to, but I guess I don't know. So we need to start a report on that to see if there's a comeback on the contractor. Because we're facing a $60,000 bill to do it properly the second time.
I would have thought the exact opposite, that if it's coming over the top, I wouldn't expect a wall to protect it, to stop that. I would expect it, if it was washed out in the bottom, I expect it to collapse and fall apart.
Yeah, on the bottom.
Yeah,
But this was the top.
well, that's right, but then again, if the water came over the top, down in a torrent and knocked out the top, that top wouldn't be able to stand that pressure.
I don't know. I would imagine that the reason you build a rock wall to the top of a bank is to protect it from.
Stop the bank from falling into the river.
You know,
Yeah,
we need a report.
no, that's good.
We need to know. I mean, essentially, the driver here is: do we have a comeback against the contractor?
Are you
Absolutely.
gonna loop this in with Councillor Payne's infrastructure committee?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
that's where you're gonna.
We don't have the expertise. We don't have any geotechs or structurals. We need a staff report on
So
this
you're
one.
gonna, staff's not geotechnical, what you're asking for is the dates and who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're gonna need some help here somehow.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this in two stages. Can we get a report on when, who, and what was supposed to be done, and then we'll bring it back, and maybe the IC can look at it.
And that
Just
may
look
be-
at it.
That may be to outsource it to
If there is a geotech issue. Sound good? We don't need to resolve any of these things, right? These are just action items.
That's correct.
Is that
That's
good?
correct.
So
In
you've got
fact,
that, Shauna? You got the slight. So that's not closed off. That's still open. Public Works Manager, interim and to produce the Public Works Manager punch list report during the Public Manager's absence.
I've integrated the high-level public works accomplishments into just a complete report that includes some finance, some administrative, and some public works. So
Beautiful. Okay, Mayor Bird to draft a response letter to the delegation request. I'm proud and unusually can say I've done that. I've only drafted it, mine. I haven't finished it. Okay, so that's underway, as I just told you. Interim CAO agency to respond to the resident correspondence letters R1 and 2 by September 8th.
18th, and
18th.
that's done.
Thank you. And that's it for action items. We'll now move to a new agenda item, the October meeting schedule. We discussed this in Strategy Committee, and the proposal is to dispense with the second strategy meeting and council meeting in October. Staff is going to tell us if that would fly.
We'd recommend not having the committee of the whole meeting, but we're a little concerned about the council meeting. We see a number of items that we anticipate bringing forward, and we suspect you would be required to call a special meeting in regard to those anyway. We've
Okay.
got a lot of unfinished business here that we expect to be bringing forward. So I would recommend that the second council meeting not be cancelled, but the committee of the whole meeting be.
Now, is there a scheduled committee of the whole meeting, or we call those ad hoc, do we not?
And I'm a little unfamiliar with this here. You tell me.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you know?
not quite sure about that.
Do we, for the
For the,
strategy
yeah.
meetings? Yeah, we just call them as.
We call them as needed.
There's
So-
no set
Okay.
schedule.
Okay, so no action required. Everybody good with that? Just on the nod? Right, thanks. So unfinished business, moving on to Wildlife Working Group Terms of Reference, page 9. Anne?
Yes, you had asked, there was some concern that if it were a working group, it might not meet the Bear Smart criteria. We've researched the Bear Smart criteria, and it definitely still qualifies. We simply have to make sure that we continue to maintain the criteria listed. Other than that, how we decide to fulfill those provisions are up to us. So
That's great. So these requirements are of the community with a small c. Good. Okay, so it's a community group.
So Norma's ready to go. She just needed our approval
Yeah.
with regards to her ask for $500 to fund the educational aspect of this.
Okay, so that's encapsulated in the recommendation that's been given to us. So can I have a motion on that recommendation? And a second? Discussion?
Just to clarify, the $500, we did say commencing in 2016. Given how far it is in the year, we would have to come to council to request an extra 500. And you required it in 2015, but we've made a note to include it in the 2016
Okay.
budget.
Would that come out of the community grants, or would that be separate?
We usually have it as separate. We don't require a community grant application for that. Technically, it's similar, but some we just.
It's a
you know, just give them,
quasi-official,
yeah.
mandated,
That's
yeah.
right.
but on the other hand, she would not have to come back to ask for this. It would be
Yes.
presented in the budget process.
It
That's
would
right.
happen
That's
automatically.
right. No, exactly. It wouldn't be part of the municipal
Okay,
grant
good, that's
process
good.
of asking for money.
I think that's the expectation, right? That it's 2016.
I'm not sure if that was...
If not, we can make donations. I'm quite happy to.
Because I
contribute.
don't think she has a plan, so I don't think she's spending anything.
It was communications. I think she was going to do a school thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sure we can handle the cash flow. That's not an issue. Okay, so we have a motion and second on the recommendation. Any further discussion? Jim, you look like you want to say something.
No, not at all.
Okay, call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Opposed? Okay, that's good. That's been a while, but it's a good result. Okay, we're going to move on to staff reports, starting with the CAO. Report is on page 11.
So this is the report that I've incorporated all those different elements into rather than 3 separate reports, which was simply a little too crazy. There is some information in here that Your Worship had requested on liability exposure
Yeah.
regarding tree
Yeah, I couldn't.
businesses.
I just want to ask you about that. Subsequent to my asking that question, I realised that it's actually CN's insurance that changes.
Okay, that makes
And-
more sense.
And then they back bill us for their increase in premium. So it's really them to answer the question. So there's not much we can do. We don't have to carry additional liability insurance because we've asked, as exactly as you stated here. Okay.
Just a few points of interest. We are subject to a CRA audit
Okay.
this
So that
year.
was my next one. What?
It's not uncommon in municipalities. The CRA will audit.
This is
very-
random.
Yep.
Yeah, yes.
It is, and I've seen a couple of them before in past. They truly seem to be random, and they
CRA. I mean, why CRA?
Other than the donation practice and the, making sure the cause and receipts are all thing, and maybe some minor
There-
tax, I'm actually kind of fooled why they'd be here.
This,
There's-
they have specific, they audit specific aspects, and
That's right.
ours is around benefits, is it not?
No, it's around contractors.
Contracts.
So there
That's, yeah,
might
I'm here, I've
be
heard at Metro they're
a bit of
doing a push.
exposure there. We're
Yeah.
hoping not, but we
What would-
provide them what they need
What
and
would be the theme there?
contractors, whether or not they were actually contractors or should have been employees.
Yeah.
It's
They-
a favorite of CRA.
Yeah, that is,
And-
they're
Oh,
doing a
it's
big thing.
Somewhat out of our control.
Fine,
Yeah.
this is the theme of the day, and I can tell you
Yeah.
where we've hit this,
Yeah.
this drumbeat has been heard before.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're squeaky clean on, we'd probably go too far in the non-contracted direction. So,
Actually, I think.
CRA will disagree with you.
I think
lean
just the
more
other way,
towards
actually.
that.
It's the
I
other
would
way
lean
around.
more towards we have some gray areas.
I think the gray areas are been exploited,
really?
yes.
They're
If,
pretty strict
Looks like a
definition.
duck, smells like a duck, tell me why it's a contractor?
They have
Which duck are we talking about?
Me.
Well, no,
Quack.
you're,
The one beside
you're,
you.
you're outside our window. Grant McCredo could be looked at, but I can defend that. It's just, I mean, just anybody who's a contractor, they'll look at them and then they say, should they have been an employee? It's to
Oh,
CRA's
yeah.
advantage to
Both
have them as an
finance.
employee because then they get their deductions. They get the premiums
sure.
and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
CPP. I've been through it before with other organizations.
Okay.
Just,
I believe
it
on
is
this
what it is.
one CFO that the recourse is to the alleged contractor, not to the village.
No, it's the village, because if
It's
it
the
was
employer.
deemed an employer, then we were,
Or the small benefit portion, or?
Plus penalty.
plus
Yeah,
penalty.
plus interest.
They deem, if it's deemed employee, then as the potential employer, we do have to pay back the CPP that
Okay.
should have been collected. So there is a bit of an exposure, but I'm not overly alarmed by what they might be looking at.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
A few other just high-level things. Paving, as was noted in the.
Well, let's just go through these 9 siren location.
Okay.
I see
Tell
we
me.
have
Yes.
the most voluminous reasons why we can't do something, again, that I've seen in weeks.
I think you standing and screaming at any given point in the village would accomplish.
If this is a priority of council's, we definitely can continue to investigate, but the wiring for it would likely require some upgrading.
Well, I would agree with that because you gotta tie it into the generators and that's more than just a handyman job.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, we couldn't do it handyman, and it's got to be a ticketed electrician. But, okay, well, let's do this then on the siren. I believe that any community facing a plethora of natural disasters, it behooves us to be able to communicate landslide, fire, water outage, all the many things. I can see that it might be a bigger issue than just slapping an old school siren on a building somewhere. So maybe we give this one back to the IC. Is it an IC issue or
I
is it
recommend
public?
that.
This is getting by me here. Is it going on the Clap building?
And
No,
it's
this was-
Flat or Public Works or Mobile.
Oh, okay.
Because the issue at the Clack building was that the ambulance station didn't want the siren blowing if it was one of the 3 water alarms.
Okay.
That was a blast for I think 5 seconds every 15 minutes or
And
something.
the yard?
Too far away.
It's apparently you can't hear
Far
it.
away?
I heard it
Yeah.
when they were testing it.
Yeah.
Not very well, I must admit. I wouldn't pay much attention.
Okay.
So which is actually staff's recommendation out of all these options?
There isn't really a recommendation. This came from.
Oh, the
as you can
recommendation
see,
is
Public
deferred.
Works has-
Yeah.
It's strongly recommended. It's not even a regular recommendation. It's a strong recommendation to
That'd be a
defer
budget
it.
item, yes, because
I'm just
of
thinking
the.
how big is the budget just to wire a
Exact-
siren on a building? I don't know.
We get the additional advice that we should carefully consider the cost benefit, in case you didn't know that.
Well, if I could suggest, one of the things that's been dormant for a long time is the Emergency Planning Committee, which we should really strike soon, and I think that's more their jurisdiction than the ICs. So
Absolutely, if we had one.
if we hurry that along, seeing as their staff are recommending we defer it, why not defer it until we get that set up and get going?
Thinking the Emergency Preparedness Group?
Emergency Planning Committee.
Is that the There's so many committees.
There's not enough committees, what are you talking
Okay,
about?
so you're talking about the emergency group.
Yeah.
I'd be all in favor of that.
That's a big thing that we need to address anyway. So,
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
gotta be done.
we've been a little lax in not. I mean, every community worth its salt in the states. I know you only have to drive down into
Anywhere.
Central Oregon, Central Washington. They have a means to communicate in an emergency, and it's needed, unfortunately.
Well,
I'd like,
well, in the spirit of not pushing stuff off, I mean, really, thank you, CAO. I mean, this is good work, right to the point. So it's either A, that doesn't work, B, that's too far away, or C, that costs a bit more. With the mobile unit, costs unknown.
quite frankly, I would suggest exploring some options. This doesn't appear to be the perfect siren
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
your needs. You may want to look at a mobile unit that is voice activated. There's lots of options.
The focus of this was we had the siren, it was already there, it's quite loud, perfect. But now looking at the fact that it could be running without power, could be doing it, then yeah, that's a whole different issue.
I'm happy to defer it.
Do you want to
you-
take this away for 2 months? Do
Sorry?
you want to take this away for 2 months for recommendation? If that works with you, Mayor?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm hearing that it should go by an emergency planning committee, which we don't have today. I was joking about enough committees, by the way. I think we have. I don't even know who would tap to be on that.
Well, we had one in the past, it's been dormant. I was gonna talk about that in our report section, that I think we should reactivate it, because we've got things like evacuation going and everything. So we can look at our past list and see who there we could utilize, and maybe council could suggest some other names. Maybe staff has somebody that would suggest.
It would be a select committee, not a standing committee.
I'll leave that to you.
Okay, well, yeah, fine. Okay, so as far as the siren goes, I think we take staff's recommendation, strong recommendation. And we will also carefully consider the cost benefit prior to making a decision.
Thank you.
So back in 2 months.
Okay, you got that? Okay, what else, Anne?
Tax sale, we sold one property. Number 13, I wanted to, oh, yeah,
Can I jump back to that?
yes.
I'm assuming it didn't drop off a zero there. And
No.
that's the real
This is
number?
correct. That's the real number.
So-
Upset price was $13.50
It
maybe?
was about 1,100. We set a minimum upset price of what the back taxes are. It was, the lot itself is only assessed at $75,000. It's on, I can disclose this now, it's on Crystal Falls Road. And it was a vacant lot, and we've deemed it pretty much unbiddable because Magnesia Creek literally runs right through the middle of it. And it's surrounded on both sides by property that's owned by residents. So we actually weren't sure anyone would be interested, and we actually had 3 parties. I had a bit of an auction going on. So it sold for, we had
If I had a checkbook,
witnesses.
I would
Yes.
raise my hand too.
Yeah, it's a pity that we couldn't actually buy it as a future park, but it's a
Well,
nice city.
the question I had about it, it seems it's such a low number. Is that going to affect our assessment values in any way, or is this a one-off?
It's a 75 grand
No,
property.
it won't be.
2,200 they sold it for.
Yeah, because it's a tax sale, I don't believe that impacts BC assessment. It would probably stay at $75,000.
Oh, okay.
This was just, this was a market, really a market-driven thing. And it, the person who purchased it, there's still a year for the current owners to redeem it.
Mhm.
So ownership actually wouldn't officially transfer for another year if it's not redeemed.
They
So
say
it's a
in most
very unusual
cases it is
property.
redeemed, like 95% of the time. It's redeemed by the previous owner.
Yes.
Okay,
Except in this case.
tell us about item 12.
Item 12, yes, that's one I'm working with ministry to try to get an extension on. They shortened the timeline for the referral period, and then most unfortunately, they sent all of the documents in one massive email, which bounced or didn't come through because of the size restrictions, the data size restrictions on incoming emails. So we didn't have a chance to see it until it was right at the deadline.
Just remind everybody, does everyone know what we're talking about here? Just give us the background, to the extent that you can.
Mr. Vestergaard had applied for a made a land use application
For
to
it
make
to-
road improvements and increase the easement and a few other requests related to improvement of the road, to bring it up to ministry standard. The road to his place had not been to ministry standard, and this had been of concern to the ministry. So they had been working with him to.
Now, this is outside village limits, and it's outside our regional district.
It is,
However-
except that one of the pieces of easement is on our property, is within village.
The easement or the access? In other words, does he drive through Lions Bay Village to access the road?
He's requested some additional easements, and one of those is within village.
Easement meaning he wants to build a road on it?
Mhm.
Is this something that council gets to say yay or nay on?
We normally would bring it to council outside of the fact that we saw it days before the deadline, and that was right in between council meetings. So what we had referred back to the ministry was to say that it was insufficient time for us to adequately assess the application. We had concerns with the one property that was requested for an easement. We felt that it was likely not an appropriate easement for a road, not an appropriate property for that easement, and we requested an extension on that referral process. I haven't heard back.
Okay, well, I mean, let's hope that we don't have to go to the worst case scenario, but does council not approve any easement request?
Normally, yes, absolutely.
No, regardless, normally or not. I mean, this is a change in land use. Is it not? So Flynn Road doesn't get to decide on our behalf within the village.
Yes and no. We are in the position, when it's a referral, if we don't respond, they proceed. We have the option of responding, we don't have to respond, but we felt we would have liked to in this case. We simply didn't have any means to, any time to assess this in. We had concerns about the fact that they shortened the referral process.
Okay, this is all sounding a little concerning. I mean, this is, you did mention this in our Monday meeting, but this is a little more serious than I thought. Should I not be calling the minister?
At this point, it's in the ministry staff, at the ministry staff level, so I don't know whether the minister
I want to raise it
but
to a higher level
Yeah.
staff. I mean, I don't know what the details are, but I'm hearing that we would oppose it if we'd been presented with the
I don't
request.
know that. That's my concern, is I don't know. I don't know that council might have looked at it and said, no, we're fine with that. But we don't have any information to even give council right now.
Yeah, but there has been an application, which
I
we
wouldn't
haven't
know
seen.
what to recommend to council right now.
Yeah, well, we would need a recommendation. Have we seen the transportation use application?
Finally, yes.
Okay. So next council meeting is in 2 weeks. Will we know anything on which we can make an official pronouncement? Or is it that we don't know yet?
I don't know what the time period will be before the ministry makes their decision on that referral. We expressed our concerns. What we did was we shared the information with some of the adjacent property owners, and I know some of those property owners have also expressed some concern to the ministry. So.
Okay, we're going to need a little bit more details here. I mean, residents expressing concern to ministries, they're going to say thanks for your concern. Talk to your municipality, but the municipality doesn't know anything about it.
No, they would not necessarily say that, because this is a ministry application, not a municipal application.
So the neighbors were contacted in the same way we were. So I believe we would all have equal voice. So they already have heard some concerns expressed before the deadline. But we've asked for an extension of the deadline, which my understanding is we haven't heard back yet.
We haven't, no.
Yeah.
No.
My concern would be that, knowing provincial ministries, okay, in some cases, I find it very odd that they would send you an email with a whole bunch of documents in it when they know, they've got to know that there are limits
Yeah.
to what you can and cannot receive.
Yeah.
And so you would think they would advise you and then say, you know, can we send you a packet, or can you go pick this up,
Absolutely.
whatever the case
I
is.
mean, they should send it registered mail, I would
Yeah,
think.
that's
You know,
right, they
it's
shouldn't
that
be
serious.
emailing, so I find that a little bit odd.
It was a little odd.
It's a bit hokey cokey. I'm not sure. So I mean, I think we need to, first we need to understand what the proposition is, because as you say, it may be nothing.
May not.
It may be outside our limits. But I'm hearing that what's being asked for is access over the private bridge, whatever a private bridge is on municipal land, and the road that's been built over municipal property, because the assigned alignment is on a cliff, and that's included in the access. Well, I know previous councils, including I think the one that you guys were on, said absolutely no to access through Lions Bay to the potential development up on the plateau to the north of us.
Yes.
Plus the associated abuse of water right, actually taking water out of Magnesia Creek and the creek to the north of it,
Not listening to the neighbors either.
etc., etc. From what I understand, there was sediment in. We have the exclusive water right on Magnesia Creek. Nobody else is allowed to touch that water because we need to rely, for all kinds of reasons we all understand. So we're going to need quite a bit more on this one. This doesn't seem like something that can be handled administratively.
Well, just as your suggestion to raise it to a higher level, I wonder with the shortened time frame, it seems rather odd, and the lack of information given, that maybe going to the minister would hold staff from proceeding with this until we've had an opportunity to review.
Or it's so
If you want to call
below the
minister.
noise level that there's nothing there. But we don't. Okay, so
It would be great if you would, because we would have liked more time to assess that.
okay, so I'm going to call the minister and mention it was an odd way of communicating the potentially important documentation. Can I get a copy of the application?
Yeah, you'll need the
How
application
big is
number
it?
and so on.
I mean,
Pretty substantial.
okay, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll need to see that. So I'm going there forearmed.
Executive summary.
So road improvements.
Okay, leave that one with me. Okay, that's. I'm glad this came up and that we flagged it, because if it is what we think it is, we don't want it. This sounds to me like a run through the back door.
That's what I was just gonna say, it sounds like a backdoor runaround and trying to get something developed going up there without really
Well,
getting
why
approval.
why would the ministry be
Yeah.
part of this? That doesn't make sense.
By the system being gamed, close to deadline stuff.
Just round up the flagpole and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Can we just go back to the one earlier item, Anne?
Which one?
Item 2. Population of data onto the updated village website. What does that mean?
We have a website that a project was begun several years ago, and I'm not sure just how many years ago, to update the village website. And we have an updated site. It just, the content hasn't been loaded into it. The bylaws and just the various information. The framework is there, the site is there. It's on current on a current platform, a Drupal platform, which is pretty solid.
Current bandwidth and everything, yeah.
Sorry?
It's not the one that we're looking at today, though.
No.
It was
But
a new one.
because it's not populated, so it's just sitting there. But so we need to populate that. We have funding in the budget for that. That's been allocated, and we simply need to get to it. And there isn't staff time, so we're looking at some quotes for someone to do that. We do have some part-time staff who may be interested and have the skills to do that. So that might be a potential.
What sort of number are we talking about? Budget number?
Well, if I were to say, then all the quotes would probably come in $3 below that.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But there's sufficient money in the budget for this project, and we've all taken a look at the website, and it looks good. It just got something that, it was long before my time, that just got put aside, but we do have essentially a new website that can be populated.
It would look different.
Completely different, it's completely different, it's not updating
So
what
we're
we
not just
currently
adding
have.
stuff to our current
It's bringing in a
website.
brand new website, but a big part of a website conversion is, there's the framework, but then it's putting all the information in, which
Does
makes
this
it
have a
easier.
content management system attached to it so that it can be updated administratively rather than going back to the programmer?
Yes.
Does it have? It has a
I
CMS and other?
believe so.
But I think it does.
It's a
Yes.
Haley project,
Haley
so,
knows.
or
Yeah.
she's most familiar with it, I believe so.
I didn't even know the mandate was out there. I thought we had a website. Did you guys?
Well, I know we've got one running, but I'm not aware of the other one.
It's
Several
4 or
years
5
ago.
It was years
3,
ago that
4, 5
somebody-
years old, maybe?
Oh,
And
okay.
I recall seeing it in the as a line item for
It's in-
215, something about the website or something.
Right, so we do have the money, but this website we're talking about was done several years ago, and I think they even had trouble accessing it, and now we've accessed it, and it looks quite good, and so we thought we'd use that money that's in the 2015 budget to populate this website, and we do have the flexibility to, alter it slightly, like not completely redo it, but, tweak it with some of the suggestions we've been receiving from council and staff suggestions.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing what it looks like.
Come in, we'll have a look. I won't show you because I'm not good at,
You don't know the secret handshake?
I don't know the secret handshake. but-
Someone on municipal
we
staff will be
cer-
happy to show you to be mentioned at a later date who will do it.
Well, I'm concerned that if I'm hearing it's been going for 5 years, I pretty much define that it's out of date.
I was surprised at how current it looks, and using a Drupal platform, Drupal's quite a relevant.
It's still a current platform.
Yeah, I'm less worried about the species of wood that was used to build the house. I'm worried about the design of the house. Do the rooms connect, etc., etc. But okay, let's see what we've got. Seeing it seems to be water under the bridge. Okay, thank you, Anne. Anything else, Council?
I just want to point out that labour negotiations are beginning this fall.
Yep.
Metro bargains on behalf of, you probably all know that, on behalf of Lions Bay. But we need to provide a great deal of information to them, so that's, of course, takes some staff time to
A
collect
great
that all.
deal of information, pages of information.
Is that sort of data type information, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean,
Filling in
staff will do it.
forms.
Oh, it's forms. It's
Yeah.
their forms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. And finally, number 13, I wanted to inform council about that. The contractor was unable to find bedrock on the near side of the creek, but what they did was they drilled into the far side, created a chain. I put chain, but what that means is a chain of rocks across the creek to create a solid rock on this side. And that took more rock than they had anticipated, and rock is very expensive for up there. So what we've done is they proposed changing the slope slightly, reducing the width of the road just slightly, changing the slope for part of the slope coming up out of the creek, so that that helps to compensate. Plus, the additional advantage is for those upper rocks, they can use smaller rock, which we do have some stock. So we're able to compensate in that way. And there was one other thing we were doing to compensate. What was that, Pam?
The
Pipe
pipe
changes.
changes.
There
and,
you go, yes.
have the engineers okayed this?
Yes, as did staff. We actually had a meeting with the staff as well to make sure they were okay, because the main concern of this was for safety, so we wanted to make sure they were comfortable with a slightly narrower road, and they were.
Did we get Cordillera and Geoscience in to take a look? Because he is the guy that has driven all the changes, including the changes that where we don't get to go up there after rain. He's the one who's called for the barriers. He's the one who called for the new cladding. Has he signed off? I would suggest he needs to. Pierre Fraley is his name. Cordillera and
Can you spell that
Geoscience.
for me?
No. F something.
Pierre or Pierre?
Pierre.
Peter.
Pierre.
Pia.
No, I'm really good.
Pierre.
Okay, I could have done that. Yeah, that is the correct spelling of his name.
Fraley, F-R-A-L-E-Y.
No, it's a Y.
Oh, it's EIL, I believe.
Cordillera and Geoscience is I don't know if it's an approved vendor. It would be worth. I would hate to have the wall fall down again.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
I will not accept the wall falling down no more.
His worship decrees.
Hope the wall's listening. Okay. Good. That's meaty stuff.
There you go.
I don't like the number. 13 is a bad number.
Oh, I should have added.
Oh, I have one. I
another
can add a 14th, please. You didn't report it here, but I think you may know the answer. I had asked you to understand if a contracted interim CAO
thing. Yes.
can be a corporate officer.
The legislation is completely silent on that, so then the tie goes to the runner, essentially.
Yeah.
So yes, the Local Government Act does allow for a contractor to be the approving officer, so that does set a little bit of precedent. Without any legislation regarding a corporate officer, the answer is yes.
Okay, you're satisfied as to that. So
I
I'm
am.
wondering why I
I am
heard it so
satisfied.
emphatically. The problem is I can't remember where I did hear it. Okay, we'll go on that though. That's good. Okay, and that's 14. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's segue straight on into the
Do
next
you
one.
want to receive that one? Or,
Yes, I guess we received that one. Can I have a motion to receive? And a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Carries. So we'll move on to B, I believe.
Did we
2.
deal with Remembrance Day stuff?
No, we're still on
Oh, okay.
interim CAO.
Okay, yeah.
So this relates to the report that I've been asked for, the exit report. And I felt that the exit report could have the most value if there was an interim report. In that, if I could assist council with agreeing on strategic planning that's manageable. I see some really great plans out there. I see lots of really great plans out there. I see so many that I fear that council may set themselves and staff up for not achieving what you hope to achieve. And I'd love to see some of those plans implemented, because there's a lot of thought and a lot of care put into those hopes and dreams. I think a facilitated strategic planning session will often accomplish that. That's a pretty common thing you will see in most municipalities, even little ones, because the facilitator is objective. They have no particular agenda, and so they're able to lead the group to a plan that's agreed upon. And I think that would provide a lot of benefit to this council. I see a lot of changing goals, and it's tough to play a game when you start to move the ball towards one goal post, and then the goal post shifts to a different one, and next month it's a different one again. It challenges both councils and staff. So that would be my first recommendation. My second one would be on governance, and I don't know if council's interested in doing a self-assessment. I have a self-assessment tool, which is a survey tool. I don't know if council would be interested in a governance session.
Just expand on that. What is a governance session?
It helps to define the difference between governance and management. It provides some guidance and tools for sessions, or for situations. It's a session that is largely driven by your desires and needs. What is it you're looking for out of a governance session? I suspect that you could probably all come up with some things you would like to see out of a governance session.
It's not a lot different than doing a 360 on yourself or a group around you. It's the same thing, I would think.
Okay, well, so let's hear from around the table. We can treat them separately or together. Let's. So the recommendation is that we undertake a facilitated strategic planning session. I'll just remind us we did one at the very beginning of our term. The big challenge in municipal governance is, of course, that there's no way to do that privately, so it's very difficult to air wild ideas because you're in public. So bearing that in mind, that it's somewhat of a slightly artificial process because it is public, and that we've done one, let's hear what we think. Fred, I'm looking at you.
I was trying to look away. I come from a different viewpoint from a lot of strategy and planning, because to me, from my work background, when you're doing strategy, you have a specific goal you're trying to accomplish. You have a task, and you use your strategies and tactics to get the job done. Strategy meetings I've been to have often been sort of very theoretical, and there's no measurable outcomes usually. They've all been sort of nice ideas, like, it's sort of like motherhood and stuff like that, which I've got nothing against motherhood.
Or apple pie.
Yes, okay, well, I'm not American. But I just think if you're gonna have a plan, it's gotta be doable, measurable, and hopefully repeatable for the next group, because it's such a good plan. But through the fire department in West Van, when we went through a strategy planning session, we had a whole pile of guys there that were really enthusiastic, really the sort of the cream of the crop of the keeners and everything. And the facilitator there was started off with the thing, now we'll talk about our core values. And then we'll talk about mission statements and things like that. And everybody's going cross-eyed listening to this guy, because we're thinking, we want to strategize. How are we going to get the department from here to there? And I know you got to have a vision and all this sort of stuff. But 3 days of talking about vision statements, the attrition level was atrocious. So I'm very cautious about getting into strategy meetings, because I don't like the airy-fairy stuff. Pardon that, I don't mean to be insulting, but for somebody who is sort of a short-sleeved worker and everything, you want practical plans. You don't want a decal that sits on the side of your truck to say, we feel great. Isn't that a great statement? But the guys are still leaning on their shovels. They're not getting any work done. Whereas if you give a good strategy to the crews, you'll see them working. Mm-hmm. So I have some reticence as far as strategic planning, because a lot of it's been, in my experience, sort of bad experience. So.
Actually, I'm sort of in line with what you've said, that a good strategy planning session would actually take us from A to B. And now that we do have a list of priorities, maybe to then now have this planning session, which you said we've had. Actually, I believe that we've only started it. We were going to continue, but then we didn't. So maybe perhaps now we have an end point that we want to get to. So maybe this would help us get there. I don't know. So it's not airy-fairy. So it's strategic steps.
Well, to clarify, I'm not totally against the idea. The make or break it for me is just the substance of it. Is it solid? Is it doable? Is it something that we can reach our goals with, rather than just talk about them? I want to see action. I want to see objectives met. Or else, in my opinion, we'd just be wasting our time.
We do this every day at work, and this is like the council is a committee in itself, a team sitting around a table solving the problems in the village. So to look at something, I'll use a 360 as an example. It's 360 review on the council, how it all works amongst ourselves. For our own workability amongst ourselves, would probably be good for strategy, for strategic stuff that we do. It would be good to know who's best at what roles and how to pull it together. So from the point of view of strategizing future steps for the village, I think it would be extremely valuable for this council. This council already works well together, and I think that it would just reinforce us and make us stronger. That's my opinion.
Thanks. Ron?
I'm afraid I'm trying to look away. But to share a quote as Anne has done, my favorite one is from John Labatt, which is, an honest beer makes its own friends. on this piece for being second term and also kind of career background where, corporate banking group is not a fuzzy environment. And it's very goal directed, and I see a lot of these themes rolling out under Carl's guidance over the first year, where committees are set up, things are being streamlined. Real work is being done by the council piece. The staff side, the work is always being done, and great quality information being brought forward. Not to say my time is so valuable that I couldn't participate in either, but I believe that, as Jim has said, that the council members have got huge faith in each other, and I think that, we do our 360 reviews on the way to the cars every time we get together, so I think it's pretty honest dialogue. I actually think it was quite gutsy of Ann to put this page forward, and thank you. So my sense is that, actually, Carl, to give you credit, I think we're actually quite far along on both of these topics.
Well, yeah, I would merely reiterate that, because I think we do have a strategic plan. It's not
Perfect.
It's not perfect, it's not fully polished, but it's more than enough to be going on. Governance, yes, I think we all know our shortcomings. Given the realities of small municipalities, we're probably having to work within the rules and yet still accomplish something is difficult. I have no argument with any of the principles here. These are all great things. I would say we have them sufficiently so for the time being that I would like to see the report that results without these in the interim.
You're asking for another report?
No, the high-level exit report which you propose
Okay.
to do in the interim and final version.
Right.
What we're looking for is your expert, seen it all, done it all, been a CAO hat on. Here's what I think about Lions Bay. The mayor talks too much, staff are underpaid and overworked, all that stuff. Without the benefit of this, I would contend, we even talked about it in the council strategy meeting this afternoon, that we know what our priorities are, we're still tweaking the wording. We've got enough to be going on.
You have more than enough to be going on, absolutely.
The plans that we listed, those don't actually form part of any strategic, so I'm already aware of shortcomings in the strategic plan. I guess that's a roundabout way of saying, I'd like to think about this.
Okay.
How it happens, I don't know. I'm certainly never averse to the planning process. I would contend it's very difficult to do any planning in a municipal environment because it's open. So you're very careful about saying anything that could potentially be viewed as dumb down the road or that you'd be held to. So it's a stilted process that I don't like very much. How this is solved in big municipalities, of course, is staff do the strategic planning. And they're the ones that can meet behind closed doors and hash things out and yell at each other and throw the chalk. Elected officials don't have that luxury. Yet we're being asked to produce strategic plans.
Is that why they don't give us chalk?
Yeah, there's not even a board, despite my asking for one for a long time. Okay, so what I would move to defer the recommendation. Can I have a second? I saw nods, but not seconds. Any further discussion? None? Call the question. All in favour of deferral of the recommendation to do the thing? Opposed?
Well, I just wanted to clarify, when you say defer to when?
Next meeting.
Okay, do that.
Next meeting. Okay. Just to give us some time to mull it over and potentially to propose amendments to the actual scope and depth. All good? Okay, so I'll call for opposed. No, you good? Okay, that carries. Okay, thanks, Anne. That's a good heads up, actually. Any more? No.
Yes. That one.
Is this the one that's on page 15? Yes, it is. Pam.
Yes, this was just for information purposes, as this is the first Remembrance Day with this council. We actually do put $200 a year in the budget to fund the Remembrance Day celebrations. So actually don't need council approval for that, but I just wanted to let council aware that we do have that funding, and we are planning, the ceremonies are being planned. It's Judy Luthi who has organized it for the last few years. So it was really just for your information to know it's being taken care of, and the money is in the budget. It comes actually from council celebrations budget.
We have a celebrations budget? How much is it?
We shouldn't have said
Let's
that.
just say there's not much left. Without knowing you had it, you've managed to spend it.
So a way around the expense
yeah.
policy.
So this was just because this is your first Remembrance Day. I mean, this doesn't need to come
Thanks.
forward
Yeah.
every year, but
Funny enough, I was just
something
actually
like-
thinking about it, thinking, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Thanks, that's great, Pam.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'll take a motion to receive the report. And a second, further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thanks very much. That's great. You read my mind, and I'd actually forgotten my own mind, so that's... Okay, so we'll move on to 8B1, and that is the Mayor's Report to Council. You should have seen this before in a slightly different guise, where it was pulled from a closed meeting agenda. It's changes to the committees. I've discussed them with everybody. I don't propose to go through this thing word by word. This is not a resolution item. It's how it's going to be, because these are standing committees which the mayor is required to strike and set terms for and membership of. But I certainly would like to hear any thoughts.
Concur.
There are no real changes to the Finance Committee. Ron and I have discussed it at length. We'll talk separately about what we're going to, exactly, say thank you
It's a
nicely.
natural progression.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it works.
And we'll talk about the community committee when we talk about that.
Yeah, I'm aware that I am a week late in calling you back. Sorry. Okay, so are we good there? We don't have to do a even receive, right?
You should.
Should we receive this
Yeah,
report?
you
Okay,
should.
so I'll move receipt of my report. Can I have a second? Thanks. And any further discussion? Okay, so all in favour for receipt of the Mayor's Report to Council on standing committees of Council and for those opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Thanks. Okay. Any further business under Council? Helen, you said you wanted to raise something under the Council verbally?
No, it was actually, it was perhaps with resident correspondence.
No, it was to do with, yes, I guess it was resident correspondence. To do with the Ocean Bureau complaints? Yeah,
So,
okay.
But it's not here, so I don't know where they went.
It's not in
Maybe they were
correspondence.
just sent to us as emails and not included.
I didn't see it in correspondence, to be
Yeah.
honest. I didn't notice
No,
it.
because I saw an email come through as well, and it was quite concerning. It
And
was
many-
very sarcastic and
Yeah.
very poorly worded, but the thing is that it was addressed to all of council about the noise on Ocean View Road.
It's just the
And-
one that's repetitive?
Hmm?
It's just the one that's
There
repetitive?
now
Yeah.
seems to be
Yeah.
two different.
Yeah,
people
there's two different
emailing.
people doing it, and so it's, and the thing is that it, like, I was gonna talk about it in the minutes of the bylaw committee meeting, because we talked a little bit, touched a little bit on that stuff there, so.
Why don't we do that?
yeah.
So it was
That's
an
okay.
email.
But then we wouldn't be part of that,
Staff
so.
copied on it?
Well,
I don't think so.
there's no reason why you couldn't, I mean, yeah, we all have, I mean, Carl was there, and we have people come in to sit and listen.
Well, you can ask questions.
So, yeah, questions and all that, so it's no
No,
problem.
actually, I was just wondering with regards to residents sending us emails, how do those get responded to? What happens to them?
We had,
Yeah, that
we
was
had
the-
touched on it in the earlier meeting, that would be part of our correspondence policy. We have a process, if something comes addressed to mayor, council, and staff are copied on it, then it goes into the package. But that email, if staff weren't copied on it, we wouldn't have seen it. So that's gonna be part of our correspondence policy to determine what we do. Because the general rule is if it's come to mayor and council, it will go into our correspondence, but.
So if it comes to us, we should forward it to you
Like
and
the
then
one I
it'll go
did
in.
with the.
That'd
It
be
came
great.
straight to
lighting
council,
and-
period.
Like the street
It was-
lighting
it was-
in
it was
Telford
emailed
Road.
to council,
That's-
that was
goes
it.
back
And that was
to-
it, yeah, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't have seen it, but
Yeah.
so that's what we'll talk about with the correspondence policy, a way for then you informing staff, and then it would get included in the.
And then I'm just wondering, in such a case where it's sent to council, does who responds to this person,
Yeah.
or no one does?
Yeah, no,
What is the protocol?
someone needs to respond. I was very tempted to respond, but I didn't. And it's something that.
And it's not just that one, it's
No.
just been many,
Oh,
many.
no, I agree, and we need, I mean, that particular one, that particular complaint, we hit on it in the committee meeting, and we touched on it, and we know where we're gonna go look to see if there's a solution that can be put in place to help that resident with some of the stuff, but, you know, that's it. But we've got nothing right now, so we have to work at.
I would say in
work on
general, you know, in terms of response to correspondence, if it's a policy issue, a member of council responds. If it's an administrative issue, as this particular issue is, for example, staff respond. Staff must know about it, obviously, so if it comes to you alone or council alone, clearly staff must be forwarded. But I think it's fairly clear, you know, I'm trying this drumbeat of making sure that people understand council is policy, staff is execution, and if it's an execution issue,
Yeah, that's what it is, that's exactly.
there's not
what
much
it
we
is.
can do.
No.
See, I'm learning.
That's why we like you.
But then will staff respond to every email or no?
Yeah,
Yes?
I would expect so.
We, with residents,
Yes.
I mean, we typically do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you can politicize all of these things, but if somebody keeps making the same complaint, you may have to say, please refer to our earlier response. But, you know, I'd leave that to any professional body of managers who know how to handle that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the correspondence policy so that this is formalized, that people understand. I mean, I would make an effort to make sure that people understand council is policy, staff is execution. Okay, so let's leave that one there for now and go to the committee's Board of Variance minutes.
What is my council portfolio news? Or would that be on the?
Yes, that would be under C,
Yeah, I just have a verbal, if you like, if you don't mind.
please.
Just let everybody know, ESS team met on September 29th, and they're beginning their deliberations on their budget proposals, but there'll likely be no surprises. Probably be very similar to last year, or, yeah. No call-outs in the last few months. Most of the discussions in the meeting were of organizational nature. And oddly, I should ask, I had a note here I was wanting to bring up about the Emergency Planning Committee. Once the emergency plan is reviewed by council, we should be thinking of restarting the Emergency Planning Committee. It has not met for some time, as we have had a change in council members, the revision of the emergency plan, and we need to decide on the composition of the committee. Consideration of a detailed evacuation plan for the whole village is high on my agenda. As Nikki is still away, I suggest we bookmark sometime in November to consider these issues. We may want to consider budget allocations for POC members, their EMBC sponsored training courses, small amounts to cover travel and parking, as EMBC courses are usually free to emergency service workers. Any other training could be considered as well, should the emergency planning committee see the need. And just lastly, look at IC. The last meeting was reported on the last council meeting. And just a note, the IC will be meeting on Tuesday, October 13th, instead of our usual second Monday due to Thanksgiving Day holiday. So, everybody knows as much as I do now.
What was the training budget and all that stuff?
Oh, any EMBC, Emergency Management BC courses are put on to emergency personnel free of charge.
So it's just sundry stuff.
Sundry stuff, like maybe parking and travel expenses and
$300 is king.
What about the larger budget? Is that all you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah, just out of whatever's allocated to it when you're thinking
Okay.
about budget numbers. But if there are some other courses, maybe you want to have a little place marker in there in case something really spiffy comes by that you want members to go to.
And just as a pre-heads up on the potential emergency planning committee, who was the chair before,
I'm afraid I was.
and the members?
Ron was one. We usually have the CAO, mayor, and well, we had rather a large committee, so I would imagine we probably want to stick more to the rules now that we're better acquainted with them. But I could forward you the list of who was on it, and you can.
Okay, well, we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that once we've seen the emergency planning report.
Right.
Emergency plan, I mean. Okay, that sounds good. That would be a select committee, so it would be appointed by council. So there's no need to balance. Are you telling me no? You think maybe it's a standing committee?
What would be, to create a select committee, you need a term. It
deliverable,
needs to
yeah.
have one specific objective that eventually is accomplished and then the committee's disbanded. This seems like a valuable committee for an ongoing committee.
Typically, it is ongoing.
Yeah.
And also, we have representation from the emergency service, like police, fire, ambulance, search and rescue. They're sort of, whoever they put forward as a member is one of our members.
So,
Some of those people would have to be observers if we're to follow the community charter for standing committee. You're going to have the same number of elected officials as none, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
if I could suggest, Your Worship, a working group could be your answer. That
It's probably better.
is how it's been approached. in
That's a
some places.
community group, not a municipal committee. It's not a committee of council.
It's still led by the municipality, and it can be. A working group can be almost anything, but you can set the definitions for it. It could, but it does allow for that incorporation of other emergency responders and so on, for sure.
For example, when we get down to evacuation, the police are vital to be involved because they're the major evacuators, and they've got to have every opportunity to speak to it. But just so you know, out of where we've been in the woods and everything, we have no terms of reference for it at all that I'm aware of. And I was sitting on it for 3 years.
The idea of the committee for right now is to create an emergency plan for the village.
Well, no, we put the cart
No.
before the horse. The plan is about done.
Okay.
It's
so
almost
then-
delivered.
Okay, so then it's the other way around. Okay, so then.
Is
that
it
makes-
to
that makes
implement the
sense.
plan?
Implement the plan.
Yeah, and also work at training aspects. Like you've got to set up the emergency operations center, and you've got to learn how to operate the thing with all the various inputs and everything, and you've got to populate the emergency operations center. You have to have a backlog of people who could respond at any time. Usually, like during working hours, staff manage it. The CAO is the EOC director. But if you get something in the middle of the night, staff aren't usually around, so we have to have a certain amount of redundancy in there, so we have people take the places. So all those people need training and expertise, and to come to the emergency planning committee or whatever, there's a great wealth of knowledge from all the emergency services that can bring everybody up to speed that you can't just get in a classroom. So we have exercises, quite often tabletops. Well, I shouldn't say we have, but it's typically you have tabletop exercises, like you got a map of the village and you have run scenarios like how do we respond to this and all that. And so training is a big aspect of it. So you're planning not just the paperwork, you're planning and trying to anticipate what is going to be coming down the pipe at you and how are we going to respond with it. So it's kind of
Okay, well, I think let's wait till we see the report, and then we can discuss the details of the terms of reference of the emergency planning committee.
okay.
But it sounds pretty well understood what we're going to need there.
It sounds like it's almost like a team as opposed to a committee. It's like
Well, yeah, it's a working group or a
ESS
task force or a,
It can be.
or neighborhood watch or something like that.
But it is something that needs to go on for a while, so Ann's right, it's probably better to have it, yeah.
Be
It is a
horrible to have
committee
an
or something like
emergency
that,
after
yeah.
you disbanded.
In a sense, it's a team of team leaders, if you want to think of it that way.
good. Let's flesh it out as soon as we have the report, the emergency plan, I mean. Okay, so I'll move receipt of Fred's 2 reports for the on ESS and Infrastructure Committee in a second. Thanks, and any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favour of receiving the reports? Opposed, carried. Thanks. So, my suggestion exactly. Thanks. Any other committees of council business?
The policy committee, bylaw committee, okay. I've talked about this already, so we met on the 21st of September. Carl, you were there. And for the most part, we were needing to talk about the bylaw issues that had arisen during the Ocean View complaint of 300 Ocean View Road. And subsequently, we've been through, we looked at a bunch of bylaws that were involved, and for the most part, we were hard pressed to find anything that was really related to the issue that we could put our finger on. However, we did note in the committee meeting that we have some stuff in the Good Neighbor bylaw which talks about nuisance and nuisance bylaws. And we felt that after further discussion, we felt that a lot of municipalities use nuisance bylaws as a way, or a Good Neighbor bylaw as a way to bring in some of this stuff that can't be possibly put or enforced in other bylaws, especially around what people consider an actual nuisance to them. And so under noise bylaws and other various bylaws, we've got certain rules, and all communities, a lot of communities have them. But stuff that goes on day in, day out, month after month, on a construction project can be quite bothersome. So we may need to tighten things up a little bit, and that's probably the best way to consider the neighbors in that particular situation, to come up with something. So we've got to look at that as a committee. We've decided that, and I just don't know, I think that's probably the only way we can proceed on this particular one, because there's nothing there. And we still feel for the residents, but at the same time, there's nothing in the bylaw that stops the activity from going on that's going on. So we're going to take a hard look at it.
Did we not discuss in any way changes to the building bylaw as well?
We have, yes.
But we didn't discuss it.
We just discussed it
Okay.
here in great deal.
Yeah. I just add, this will come out in the approval of the minutes at the next policy and bylaw review, but you were tasked with getting all the policies and bylaws onto an indexed, publicly available drive, cloud service. I even wrote it down. Because,
And are they not on our website?
no, most of them are just scans. Like photographs. They're not indexed, they're not searchable.
They're just PDFs. They're not searchable.
You can't search content.
No.
You can search titles.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yeah, I don't.
So,
The reason, just to remind you why it came up,
mhm.
we felt that potentially we had several bylaws referring to fire.
Mhm.
Making fire, not making fire, putting out fire, building fire, and conflict. And I happened to note a little later that we actually discovered through that process that we had an obsolete bylaw still on the books.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Your Worship, if we populate a new website, then
We could look at.
Some of the bylaw documents that we have are, and I know why it's been done, it shows signatures, but they need to be optical character recognized so that we could actually index the wording. But it's all doable. It's not a big deal. I just remind you of that one. That was
okay.
But that's
Yeah,
we're not
I have-
approving these minutes now. That'll be at the meeting.
No, we're just,
Yeah.
we're,
Just to give you a
we're just
heads up.
talking about what happened
Yeah.
at the meeting, so.
Yeah, I
That's
think
good.
that's right. So I mean, the issue was that there's two aspects that we are a bit loosey-goosey on. One is the definition of nuisance, and the lawyer on the policy and bylaw committee, he's fairly disparaging when things aren't watertight legally. It was quite funny. So he was going on about foul and loathsome contents of your garden. He said that's not defined.
Yeah. No,
What
that's
is
right.
that?
Yeah, no, that's right.
So we have to tighten up. The policy and bylaw review, the good neighbor bylaw, when you look at it carefully, you can see that it was cut and paste from three other.
Oh, absolutely.
others.
3 or 4.
Change in language, change in terminology, same thing repeated in a slightly different way. So we've got, as we know very well, which is why we have the committee, we have to tighten up.
Well, there's all sorts of aspects around the good neighbor bylaw that could be changed, as we've discussed previously. And one thing is that ILView, we've had constant, lately, disparaging remarks about trees and tree topping on private property. And we had one neighbor that was absolutely convinced he was going to drop the tree and nobody else wanted him to drop it. It was on his property, it was his tree, and it was paid for by the neighbor above who wanted to have that tree removed out of their view. And so it was done. And everybody got really into that, and it was not fun. And so some things that for the good neighbor bylaw, one of the things that could go in there is some rules around topping of trees. And, you know, what has to be considered, you know, without, you know, if people want trees removed and one person doesn't, but everybody else in the neighborhood does because it's blocking their view, something needs to be done.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
So I think that the good neighbor bylaw is a good one to look at as well.
it's a good
So,
starting point.
Yeah.
It gets pretty dry in the policy and bylaw
Yeah,
review
yeah.
committee meetings.
Yeah, I would imagine a little lawyer there, it gets pretty dry.
People start speaking Latin.
Yeah, he was actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good fun.
So the status is that your committee is reviewing the good neighbor bylaw and
We are.
As the first step,
As
yeah.
the first step,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're also going to be looking at the building bylaw.
That's right, yeah. That's the next one.
Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun on how we'll talk about it.
It's
in a
just
minute.
that this thing on Ocean View has gotten really ugly, and so we want to try and deal with it the best way we can.
Yeah, in an equitable,
Absolutely.
even-handed,
Absolutely,
balanced
yeah.
way. We
Yeah.
can't be even give the appearance of bias in either direction.
That's right.
If there are gaps and loopholes, I think they're called. I think we changed the word loophole, but if there are gaps in regulation, then we must fix those.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other council reports? I'll just quickly report on. I sent it around. I'll just mention it. The UBCM convention last week was good. As you probably know, it's attended by all BC municipalities. Many send their entire council. I sat next to in a fascinating plenary session debating. Who even knows what it was? It was fairly arcane stuff. I sat next to one of your council members from Belmont.
Interesting.
Looked at each other. Hey, I know who you are. Hey, I know. Anyway, so it was good as far as it went there. It's always good to hear what other people's challenges are. They're very similar to ours, not surprisingly. Some people are upside down financially worse than we are. I always didn't want to say what our tax base was compared to some people, although nobody has as little commercial as we do that I talk to. I had two ministry meetings, two separate ministers with the Minister of Community Support and Social Development. Is that Cultural Development? And Small Dogs and Big Elephants Ministry, that guy, Fassbender. Also responsible for TransLink, in case you want. He's given everything, that guy. To talk about the things, the quantifying the stream flow as a result of the previous winter snowpack, and potential funding for feasibility study and construction desalination plant. That went reasonably well. I met with his funding people after that. And then I also met with the Minister of Justice to talk about explicit means to control speed on the highway, which, as you know, runs right through the middle of the village, which we do not control. But we do respond to MVAs on both psychological and or emotional and physical cost to our fire team, and also the noise of traffic going through the highway at 160, especially in the summer. So let's just say the Ministry of Justice is fairly eye for an eye and draconian. They would like to see everybody walking behind a little ox cart, I think. But there's not much that can be done. There's no appetite for return to speed cameras, so we're going to have to look at other things, including more permanent police presence, including the work that we're doing with MOT to slow traffic by narrowing lanes, changing the paint, increasing signage, decreasing signage, etc., etc. So all in all, it was 5 days of fairly intense work, lots of running around, but very worthwhile. I don't know that I wouldn't recommend that next major session, which is in 2 years' time, the one back in Vancouver, that we all go. It might be useful. Maybe not every day, but I think it's really useful for you to see. It's as useful as the LGMA conference was at the beginning of the year. Okay, enough about that. So let's move on, shall we, to 8D1, the Board of Variance meeting minutes. There's no action here, that's correct. It's information only. Do we need to receive the report?
You should. You don't have a consent agenda, so the items on the agenda should be
Each
received.
separate item needs to be received.
Unless you receive all the minutes as one package, but they've been separated by other
Because we
things.
would receive the reports at the very beginning and then they go through them all rather than having several different
Okay, that's a consent agenda process.
That is it, yeah, well, we want to do consent agenda, but our current procedures bylaw doesn't allow for consent agenda, a formal consent agenda. So that's something that we need to talk about. Let's do the receipt after we've received all these reports. In fact, that might be a better order, once we've discussed that.
You could,
Is that legit?
I suppose. I'm not quite understanding the purpose of that.
Well, there's
Why
only
would
one
you
more
just not
report.
receive it? Okay,
Otherwise,
I see.
let's, for now, let's do this in future, Shauna. Let's receive all the reports at the beginning and then
that's the way we
discuss.
used to do it, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of stopped. I
But you-
don't know why, but.
Your procedure bylaw doesn't allow for that, right? Unless, oh, I see what you're saying, in the
I have
report
in my-
In
section.
the report section, so
I
for
see.
section 8, which is a mandated section,
I have in my template, like it used to be, council
Received
received
the
all
reports.
reports, and then they went through each one, so we
Okay.
didn't have to.
well, we do
Yeah.
a motion and second, discussion, and then...
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
and then approval
Okay.
at the end.
So we'll do, just to keep things kosher, we'll receive each report for now. So can I have a motion to receive the minutes of the Board of Variance meeting? Thanks, and a second for the discussion. Seeing none, call the question, all in favour, opposed? Jim, are you opposed? Just kidding.
No.
Move faster.
What are we
That
in
carries.
favor of? The minutes?
Receiving
Receiving.
the report.
Reading and moving my arm at the same time.
Yeah,
because I'm-
I know. Okay, and one final report,
don't raise
the
your
public safety report.
Consent,
Yeah.
assent
Yeah.
anyway.
Lots of crashes. Reference earlier report on meeting with Attorney General and the Commissioner of the RCMP. And 6 of their staff who were not introduced, but they all looked pretty serious. We spend a lot of time extricating people from their cars on the highway. It costs us money to a certain extent, although we do get reimbursed by the Provincial Emergency Program. I am more concerned about the long-term emotional toll on our fire department. Okay?
Mayor, to address your concern there, they have in their operating guidelines, and they do use in practice, they have a CIS debriefing professional that'll come in. They get it really bad when they all go through the procedures and talk it through and deal with any issues and stuff. So I think they've got all their bases covered, but still, there can be a toll.
No, I'm aware of that, and I know that a debrief and decompress is offered after bad ones. I was part of one. But the long-term toll is significant. Fire chief tells me that there are resident dads on the fire department who are questioning whether they want to actually keep doing this, because after you've picked up a few body parts, it starts getting a little more serious than not. And we need to be aware of that in terms of the longevity of our fire department as well. I also am aware that MVAs provide training ground for a large proportion of our fire department volunteers, the one with professional aspirations. So, you know, there needs to be work for them, obviously. But, so there's a balance there. The issue with speed through the highway is as much a noise concern. And, you know, that's why we have quiet pavement and we have a speed limit, but it's being ignored. But the very people that make the most noise. Okay, so we'll take a motion. I'll move to receive this report in a second. Thanks. And any further? Receive the report of the Lions Bay Fire Department monthly for August. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Now that we've established that Anne is actually legitimately a corporate officer as well, I'll take a motion to appoint Anne Yensu as the interim chief administrative officer. Was that a motion? Thanks. And a second? Further discussion?
Hasn't it been done before?
It has not. No, it needs a council resolution.
Really?
I think we resolved to appoint someone.
We resolved to hire her, but then I think we have to officially appoint her.
I think that's right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so
It's
I'll call the
lovely being
question.
here.
All in favour? I'll even put my hand up for that one. Opposed? Just checking. That carries unanimously. Thank you. Bylaws. Indemnification, third, page 25. Now, we do now see a report on why and what. The main driver for this, Anne, was simply a reference to old legislation.
Correct. That was the thing that,
Did
That
we
made me
address the
think.
question about prior members of council and prior staff acting within their capacity at the time still being indemnified?
they will be, you'll be indemnified under whatever bylaw is in place. If it's an action under the previous bylaw, that bylaw still provides indemnity.
Yeah, so just for clarification, does this bylaw only cover acts that take place after its adoption? Or does it cover acts that happened before for which action is brought now?
My understanding is it covers acts from this point forward, and I did not clarify this, but acts prior to that are covered under the previous bylaw.
Now, there's two aspects to this. There's the acts and the action that's been brought. So obviously, if an action was brought under the old bylaw applies. If an action is brought now for something that happened 15 years ago, which law applies? Do we have to go and look up the old law? Bylaw?
I'm
It's
not sure, but it's possible. There's a reason why bylaws are part of the permanent record.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just concerned that we're providing adequate, but not, I guess, adequate coverage for the intents here.
Carl, I had the same question privately with the CAO, because I think I know where you're going with this one. And the issue came that if there was a situation going forward, I think it's pretty clear cut. Going backwards, if there was something that came forward, we'd be guided by our solicitors. It's not a carte blanche deal.
Yeah, I mean, that does actually raise the next question I had. Do we even need an indemnity bylaw? Is it not covered under common bylaw and statute?
It's strongly recommended that you have an indemnification bylaw to support. There's a lot of things that are outlined in the legislation, and we still have bylaws around them, right?
I tend to wonder, that's something the committee will need to look at some stage. You know, do we really need to call out common law in our own bylaw? Because this is all common law. I mean, you're indemnified for doing a job. End of story. Okay, so I mean, I'm fine as far as it goes. This is the third reading, so it's no changes after this.
I have a question though. Usually when we call in a new bylaw, we repeal the old one.
Exactly.
And so if we are going to repeal the one of 1988, do we nullify it so that something happened prior to 2015 is then exposed?
No, it does still stand for that period.
Okay,
It's repealed as of now.
Correct, yeah.
okay, I got it.
Yeah, and thank you for that heads up, because I did not have a repeal in here.
Okay, the other question I asked you, Anne, and I think you just said it was a wording issue, not a change. What is, the council will not seek indemnity against a municipal official in respect of any action of the official which results in a claim for damages against the village. Because this is an indemnification of officials bylaw. So now,
My understanding of that is that there are exceptions in which, for example, the willful misconduct that's mentioned earlier, in which indemnity may not be provided, and council may choose to withhold indemnity.
but then it would be seeking indemnity from, not against.
And all I can say is I'm not a lawyer. Every indemnity bylaw that I've looked at, or indemnification bylaw I've looked at, uses the same language.
Well, that was written because it was written by MacDonald in 1859, and nobody's ever changed it. My only other question is, the council will not seek indemnity? It's the municipality, is it not? Under 4.
And again, this is language that is the same as other indemnification bylaws, so it is a template. I absolutely give you that.
Because, in 3 it says the village will indemnify, in 4 it says the council will not seek indemnity. And I don't know what that means. I honestly don't know what that means. So I'm very loath, because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Would you like to defer third reading? We could, because we had noted one discrepancy between this bylaw and this one that I would like to check up on, so.
Okay, that'd be good.
Okay.
I would like to defer.
Okay,
One other
that's great.
question.
Okay.
I know we go round and round about this. The convention that we have used ever since we've been making bylaws in this council is that it's the municipality that does stuff. The village is out there. And so if we change back to your small capital village, low capital, whatever village, which I don't really mind one way or the other, although I'd like to see a citation of that. The previous ones don't do that. The previous ones refer to municipality.
Okay.
I'm fine either way. Okay, so can we get some clarity on what this section 4 means?
I
Are you
can,
asking,
Yeah.
I think maybe, I agree the wording is funny, I get where the intent is, but it seems reversed.
It does. I get the intent too. I
Yeah,
know
I
what
get
they're
the
trying to
intent,
say,
but the first sentence is reversed somehow to me, so whether it's, a spelling error, or as Ann says, this is a normal, even.
no, it is normal. I looked it up myself. I looked up 3, and they have, funny enough, verbatim. Guess where they all got it from? The same original source. I think it was written by James MacDonald
Well,
when he was the
all right,
Premier
so
of Upper
we're
Canada.
handing this back to the CAO, and, sorry,
John.
which I presume you're gonna check with legal on this?
J.
You're gonna check with legal? Could you also, since you are checking with legal, do a hypothetical situation, just asking the question that if there was an act by a prior hired officer or an official, and it was not authorized within the willful misconduct section, which is pretty clear, what the steps are if it comes back.
I can do
Example being, claimant claims to the employee or the official, it comes back and everybody's sued, just what happens?
I can do
A
that.
very tiny legal bill on that one.
We'll bring that to the next.
Or if they cite prior, I'm sure we're not the only ones where this has happened, if they cite other references where this has occurred, like Lidston did his little stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is quite there yet. So let's, can I have a motion to defer third reading? Thanks, and a second for that motion. Any further discussion? Okay, so I call the question to defer third reading of bylaw 496. All in favour? And opposed? That carries. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that one yet. Okay, same for council remuneration bylaw. What's changed here, Anne? Anything?
This is Pam's.
Yeah, from last week, we had talked about in the earlier meeting about clarifying incidental expenses, but we decided to keep it as it was.
Yes.
So the only thing that has changed is just effective January 1st, 2015, the mayor shall be paid the annual sum, and the same with the councillor. That is what the amount would be, your current salary plus the 0.77% increase that is calculated as explained in 0.5 to adjust the wording. So what will happen is once this is adopted, then you will get a retroactive pay increase back to January 1st to this new salary, which represents a 0.77% increase.
We can go get a latte.
I'll upset your parking.
There's my liquor remuneration.
It is.
I won't keep going on about that. Okay, I'll just point out to council what 0.5 means. That is, if the CPI goes down, nothing changes, and if it goes up, the remuneration goes up. That means we never lose. So we will always be ahead of the long-term trend in CPI. I would contend, what does it matter? On the absolute numbers here, big deal. But okay, I understand the principle needs to be there. I'm fine with that, given that the absolute numbers are small. If we're talking about a $500,000 salary being indexed to
If you're a
CPI,
salaried employee, I would expect it should be sounding exactly like this.
I wonder, don't know.
Question on this. Do we have to redo this thing every year, seeing as you've got the solid numbers in on item 3 and 4?
No, because we have that solid number, that forms the base, and because of the way it's worded, you don't have to do it every year. Every year it will go up by the CPI, and that's why I had to tweak the wording a bit, because I needed to actually put in what you will be paid this year after the CPI increase, so we could say effective January 1st, 2015. So that's the tweaking I had to do.
Just remind
For
us
that
why
very
we had to
reason,
rescind the
So we
third.
don't have to.
Why did we have to rescind the third again?
Because these numbers were wrong. It
Oh,
quoted
that's
the
right,
current
yeah, yeah.
salary, so it meant you wouldn't have got an increase. So what I would recommend doing is we'll have this bylaw, but then once we get the CPA rates would be sometime in 2016, I would just bring to council a resolution to increase the salary by this amount, and I would calculate it from CPI. And you would
And no
do the
new bylaw.
resolution. No new bylaw, but I would do a resolution, and then it's a matter of record what the increase is. And then it will always be retroactive to January 1st, but we would never have the information in time for January 1st. So every year you'll be getting a bit of a retro.
Yeah, just to remind us all, we elected not to run this one because this was the first one presented to council, and we didn't like the optics. So,
Right.
I mean, there's no other, that's the only reason it's
Yeah.
coming before us now. I still don't like the optics, but okay, it's got to be done.
Well, it'd be hard trumping a prior council that froze their comp for 3 years.
Okay, don't open that can of worms. I'm quite happy with doing that. Maybe we do it another time. Depends on the budget discussions. We may need to change it. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion for third reading on Council Remuneration Bylaw number 477. Thanks, and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favour of third reading for Council Remuneration Bylaw number 477 of 2015? And opposed? That carries. And we move on to 10C, the OCP Amendment Bylaw. I will confess that I was supposed to put some work into the wording of the regional context statement. I didn't. I ran out of juice. After that, we held a public hearing, in which so that staff had frozen the wording of the regional context statement so that the public could comment on it. There was only 2 members of council at the public hearing. Thank you, model citizen Bain. This, I think, accurately reflects what was said. Myron, you're in here.
Yeah, we don't have any industrial or agricultural.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't say that, but,
So,
yeah. All I was saying was, let's keep it the way it is.
so the public hearing comments are incorporated in any substantive change?
No, the council now considers the public hearing comments, and it's your prerogative to make any changes that you wish to see in the
Okay.
RCS based on those. They are not incorporated verbatim in any manner.
Okay, fine, thanks. So,
But they were the way they presented them. I agree.
yeah, so, I mean, well, for example, that Myron's comment needs to be in here because it's just an error. It spoke to something that's not right. And if it hasn't been changed, it needs to be. Therefore, I don't think that we're ready for third reading yet. That would also give me an opportunity to tweak it. I was going to say it's good enough. But, because it is. Because I just point out that the regional context statement will be rewritten again when we do the OCP. This is a placeholder statement to satisfy the requirements of Metro's OCP, which they give the fancy name of the...
Regional growth strategy.
No, they call it something 2040.
Metro 2040.
Yeah. Apparently they're allowed to call it that rather than something else. So I would propose that we defer, give it one more go. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
So I will is there a recommendation to approve? Yes. I would like to propose an amendment to the recommendation that we defer.
This actually isn't third reading. Your
It's
worship.
not third reading.
Because it does, if council does make any changes to it, it needs to go back to Metro once again, prior to third reading.
Has this gone to Metro?
It has gone to Metro,
When did it go to Metro?
prior to the public hearing.
In the spring, quite a while ago, initially.
Oh, but it was changed by our consultant after that.
But that version went to,
The consultant's version went to Metro.
I don't think we've made changes in quite a while since before the summer.
No, we had not, yeah, but I marked up the other one in my binder, which I didn't bring. I don't want to go through this process again. We'll be doing a regional context statement amendment after we've done our next OCP at this rate. On the other hand, so there's no changes here unless we start the process again.
You definitely can incorporate whatever you wish to identify out of the public statements or the public comment or whatever else. If they are substantive changes, Metro may have some comment on that. If they're minor changes, there won't be any.
I'll have a word at Metro. I'm pretty sure I can short circuit any Metro pushback. It's what is the requirement for readings? First, second, and third. Do we have to go again? Because we've done third reading.
No, you've done second reading.
We've done second.
Yeah. No, you don't have to redo second.
I have every confidence we can get Metro to pass the comments on or not. Good. So we're going to defer. And we're going to incorporate public comments. The comments were good. I want to incorporate some of them. If they're not now, I meant to check. Good. So we've got a motion on the table.
Do we need to defer?
We don't need to defer because there is no recommendation for third reading.
The recommendation is approve with the following amendments.
So,
Ah,
yes.
okay. So what are we doing here?
If you choose to approve it as is, we will send it on to Metro as
Yeah.
is. If you wish to incorporate some of these comments, you absolutely can then defer that. Bring it back to council. Council will say, okay, we like this incorporated version. We'll send it back to Metro for a rubber stamp. Third reading, fourth reading.
Fine. So the recommendation is 1.2, which is effective deferral. So we'll just call it deferral. Is that good enough?
Sure.
From a parliamentary perspective? Okay, so with the motion's on the table and seconded, can I have all in favour of deferral and opposed? So that carries. I'll undertake to do that, and this time I will actually do it.
That's okay. It was, I had expected that it might be done, and that's why the recommendations are thus. But I could have just as easily put a recommendation in that we follow this process, so that's fine.
Beautiful. Okay, and the final one. This was flagged in the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee. It seems that we just seemed to have one that was still on the books and alive. As far as it was never repealed, as far as we know. It was just missing in the new fire bylaw. It didn't have a repeal previous bylaw clause. So we're just going to repeal it. So I'll take a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour? And opposed? So that
Thank you,
carries.
Councillor Bain, for finding that.
Did Fred find it? I thought
Yes.
the oh.
He actually found it, yeah.
Found it, yeah.
Got him up there.
Oh, I thought it was flagged at the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee.
Yeah, it was flagged by Councillor Bain.
Yeah.
Man, that's 2 brownie points.
I like Nanaimo bars better.
Okay, let's now move on to correspondence, starting on page 69. So we're going to do the move to receive and then discuss. So I'll move to receive general correspondence and resident correspondence from G1 through R2. Can I have a motion? Oh no, that's my motion. Second. And discussion. Ron, you seem to have
Thank you,
the
and I
ability
am
to...
in fact revved. Watch
Okay.
your watch. Let's
Okay.
go.
Go.
Okay. G1, Waste Reduction Week, which is on page 71. It talks about global environment problems, so we endeavor to take a lead in our community. The issue is, we've declared this, are we going to declare Waste Reduction Week in Canada?
No.
No, thank you. The other piece here was G2, which was on
Local governments in the
page
Syrian crisis.
72, and this was the drop, cover, hold, general seismic preparedness, and this is just a notification. G3 on page 73 is information, of which the key piece is on page 74, the penultimate paragraph. We need actions that they can take to communities, local governments can play a role by supporting community fundraising efforts for establishing relief organizations. No comment. G4, which is on page 75, very lengthy on the downloading of ambulance services, which Councillor Bain has talked about for years. And that one goes to the final sentence, which is on page 87. We'd like to talk to you about paramedic ambulance resources. I don't think we need to talk to them unless Councillor Bain does, so that'd be an end of that. Page...
Just, Fred, do you feel there's a need?
No.
Okay.
Good. Then G5, which is on page 89. This is the Metro Vancouver. There's something has to be done here. It's information, but it asks as part of a resolution, we're being asked to endorse this. And Greg Moore is asking for us to send a courtesy copy of our endorsement.
Yeah, so we need to respond to the Minister of Aboriginal, the Federal Minister,
Yes.
if we want to endorse Metro Vancouver's report. Is this something that Lions Bay cares about?
No for me.
Is there First Nations?
There are no claims within Lions Bay. So I would suggest we send a polite letter? I'll talk to Greg about it.
Okay, done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just make that as an action item. To talk to Chair Moore, saying that we've seen it, discussed it. It would be superficial of us to do. Thanks.
Moving quickly to G6, which is on page 104. This is the Emergency Preparedness and Business Continuity Conference, which I would prefer to Councillor Bain, because the cost of attending this is on page 105, and it looks like healthy numbers, but what can I say?
If I may, I would like a resolution to be able to attend that. It's from November 17th to 19th. I had a nifty resolution all printed out, and I guess I left it on my desk at home. So if I can bring it, if you're bear with me. I think there's a lot of benefit going to them. I've only gone on a day or two in the past, usually put up by the ESS group, filling one of their spots, but I thought the time that I went representing council. I think a lot can be learned there. I'd also like to attend pre-conference workshop 2, which happens to be this year for evacuation planning. It's an all-day seminar somewhere in North Van, probably the CMO, I suppose. So there's about 6:30 in the regular
50.
Yeah, and 50 on top of that, and I imagine there's
Taxes on top of that. So let's call it 700 plus taxes.
You wouldn't stay down there?
No, I commute. Need some excuse to take my.
Well, it's at the Wall Center.
Yeah, it's easy.
Is there budget?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to, sure, as long as we get a report out of it.
I shall type something up.
Yeah, I mean, just even an email, just, a one pager, just so we're getting the benefit ourselves.
So my resolution would be that Councillor Bain desires to go to the Emergency Preparedness and Business Continuity Conference November 17th and 19th. And is authorized $700 plus taxes to attend various conference meetings.
And to produce a report.
And to produce a report. Thank you.
Okay, so you're moving it? Yep. Second? I'll second. All in favour?
Oh, I should ask, just for clarity, complete disclosure, the 17th is actually the date of our council meeting. And so if we're going to have a strategy meeting in the afternoon, I would visit.
I think we've already decided no strategy meeting on the 17th, right? We've decided that already?
We
It
did.
was the 20th, October 20th is the next meeting?
Is the next council meeting?
Council
Yes,
meeting.
that's correct.
Right, so that was the
No, this is
one.
November though,
Oh, this is November.
November 17th.
That's right, this is.
Well, it would be the second in November, and it's unlikely we would need it. So we will.
Can't have it both ways.
No,
You can
I
miss a meeting,
don't
miss
see
a
that as an
meeting.
issue.
Okay.
Moving along, G7, which is on page.
No, we haven't taken a vote yet.
Oh, sorry.
All in favour? And opposed? That carries. I'm not sure if you're allowed to vote. No, I think you are. Not to your personal
Yeah.
benefit.
It was early bird savings though.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that happens until the 23rd this spring, it's not.
G7, page 106, this is a private resident that is writing extensively on the call for action to climate change, and is going on. There is no response required for this. As such, like we wish him all the best. And G7, which is on page 113, is about Foster Family Month, asking us to recognize Foster Family Month, which I would recommend we don't.
Anybody else? No action? Yep, okay.
Which leads us to the residents' correspondence, which I will actually defer back to you, Carl, which is the R1 is the Mr. Caron, 2 doors over from Mr. Talbot, and the property that's always in contention, and the last one being the regional growth strategy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't actually, the letter itself is not dated, but I saw this letter about 3 months ago. So how it's appearing in the minutes now, I don't really know. But yeah, there's not much to be done. You know, this is an unfortunate process. The Board of Variance, just to remind you, there's no appeal against the Board of Variance decision. The Board of Variance adjudicates minor undue hardship. Undue means it's faced by nobody else in the immediate environment. The complaint that's being complained about here is actually a building inspection issue. The plans were approved by our staff according to their best experience and best understanding of our bylaws, building, zoning, and every other bylaw you can name. The deal is done. It's unfortunate that Todd and Rebecca Talbot on the south side of this property have a cliff leading down into a construction pit. They are now looking out onto the side of a house 6 feet away, because I don't exactly know how the setback got changed, but it did. They've been denied permission to do anything to mitigate the situation, including building a wall with a little bit of leeway into the setback. They've not been allowed to do a gazebo. Council is policy, this is execution. Unless there's a policy change that we intend to make, there's not much we can do here. I've communicated this to the Talbots. I've communicated it to Pat. I wish there was something we can do. There's nothing we can change, certainly to alleviate this position, but unless we change the zoning or the building bylaw, which we are looking at, some of it will be addressed by this.
So the changes that he's suggesting, they don't fall under policy.
Well, I mean, he's suggesting changes to the Board of Variance, and that's under work, and we've asked for a report, and that's...
He's talking about flawed process as much as the end game here.
I mean, as a result of this, I did a lot of reading on Boards of Variance. I read a lot of case law. It's pretty arcane stuff. There is essentially no appeal. A Board of Variance is even protected from making egregious mistakes, because they are known to be non-professionals. They are acting as it's a special requirement. They cannot be elected, and they cannot be something else. They have to be seen to be completely neutral. So we have a lawyer, an architect, and a structural engineer on our Board of Variance. You don't get better qualified than that. You've seen some of they adjudicated what on the evidence that was presented to them a hardship, which, as I understand it, in this case was the resident avowed that they had a condition that precluded them from climbing stairs, and so they needed a height variance and proceeded to build a 3-story house, which I don't quite understand, but okay. That's within the building plan that was approved. I mean the plans for the building.
But council has no room to deal with the Board of Variance other than say, yes, that's it. It's
But
Board
my
of
point
Variance
is-
granted it, and that's it.
My
We're
point is, this
powerless.
was not a Board of Variance. What is being complained about here is a building inspector issue,
Yeah.
and that's execution, not policy. Unfortunate as the situation is, I wish there was something we could do. We cannot. I've thought about this long and hard. I've discussed it. And the worst of it is, it's a done deal. So now, the residents on either side have remedies through the courts, which they are free to pursue if they feel their property value's been destroyed, or that if they feel, and their presumably, hopefully, their council agrees that the process was not correctly followed, the Board of Variance process. And it's very well laid out what you must and must not do.
Yeah, but the Board of Variance process is clearly for things that fall outside of it, that go against the building bylaw, and they want to get approval because of a hardship, simple as that.
It's defined as minor hardship
Minor hardship.
and undue minor hardship. So, for example, it's possible that somebody could contend that everybody faces a steep lots in Lions Bay. So it's no longer undue hardship. Because it's not particular. But now I'm well aware of other opportunities we have, and maybe council will need to consider in a closed meeting opportunities for policy change, which we can do. But we need to be guided by council there. In terms of the things here, I will respond to. I have chatted to Pat, but again, I propose that I write this more or less what I've said. This I don't want to be seen to be ducking the issue, but there's a reason for this thing. Council does not get involved in day-to-day decisions because there's an apprehension of personal bias. So, what I suggest the action is here, I will respond with a copy to the Torbitts. So now I have responded in verbally and in writing, and I think I've copied everybody on my response to the Torbitts complaint. I would contend that people have misconstrued the issue here. This is not a Board of Variance issue. This was plans getting approved that perhaps were not in keeping with zoning, but we've got an expert building inspector. He approved the plans. End of story. So action may about to respond. I don't want to be the only one talking here. Anybody else?
Let's move on to R2.
Okay. This was public input to the regional growth strategy process, which is legit. I believe you're not required to attend the public hearing. You can enter written correspondence.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we will consider this in our adaptation of the regional growth strategy, and that's it for correspondence. Moving on. So always takes 2 hours. New business. Only one item. That's the $10 a day childcare resolution to endorse. We've discussed this this afternoon in the more informal council strategy meeting, and so do you have easy access to the recommendation, or shall I just speak it? It's in the strategy meeting minutes under the appropriate section, but I'll never find it. Not easily, that is. I'll just say it. Sure. I move that council endorses the $10 a day childcare program. Full stop. I move that council endorses the $10 a day childcare program.
Your worship, can I back up one moment? I'm sorry, I needed to do a little bit of research. You mentioned incorporating the written statement into the regional growth strategy. Unfortunately, you cannot. The public hearing, when the public hearing is closed, receipt of comments is also closed.
This was received before the public hearing.
It was the 22nd, the public hearing was the 16th.
Was it?
Yes, it was. So
okay.
This one cannot be received?
It was dated September 18th.
The email is the 16th, or the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
No, that's when it was sent to Shauna from Susan. It was sent from
okay.
Norma to.
It's on the 18th.
Okay, all right, sorry, I
But-
was
but
looking
that's
at the
the-
wrong
that's the
email
issue,
date
right?
then. Yes,
So
That's
as
the
long
only-
as it's received before close of public hearing, it's
that's correct.
good to go.
Then it's good to go, yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, so
This
The
is-
resolution is, as I stated. Can I have a second? Anybody care to second it? You'll second?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? We've discussed this at length. So call the question. All in favour of endorsing the $10 a day childcare program? 3?
Yeah, no.
Opposed? Do you wish your opposition noted?
Yes.
Opposed, Councillor Bain and Councillor M. Okay, so that carries. Do we correspond with them and tell them that we did it, or
We would send a letter.
you'll handle that?
I can do that.
Thanks. So staff to send letter, all that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, public questions or comments? Myron?
Not much. I just want to, our mayor and council, just want to commend you again on your focus on the priorities. It's been, I've been here for 30 plus years and I've attended a few council meetings. The one thing that I'm really hot on is emergency response. And I commend, again, Councillor Bain on his program. It's been a long time since we've had, a very long time since we've had an emergency response group that was effective. John Jordan, who we might, a lot of us recall, was the last one that I remember. I'd like to put on the CAO another list of a priority that'll get somewhere. What are the requirements for the municipality, like legal requirements to have an emergency response, an effective emergency response plan, not just a plan in writing? Like what Councillor Bain was saying, is training, training, training. I was brought up in a chemical company, my most recent one. And training was a big thing because the big bang could happen. I'm willing to help. I've done some help in the past, but I feel that it requires a lot of dedication on all of us to have an effective plan. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I think there's plenty for us to do there. Fred's got something to do. I believe I can speak to the need for a mandatory emergency plan, which is not quite the same as emergency services plan, I understand.
No, that wasn't what I was talking about.
Yeah. So that is underway, and we hear its delivery is imminent. Emergency service plan, something entirely different, but I think we've got the proponent here who's going to ensure that the village is as well covered as it can be given its resources.
Just one other thing,
Sure.
the big boss is the mayor, not Ann, my understanding. Just to put a little bit more pressure on you, I mean.
Still smiling.
Another job, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as I hope everybody would understand that this council has a focus on infrastructure delivery, including emergency service infrastructure. So I think you're preaching to the choir. We are well aware that of everything you point out in terms of training and repetition. We face a lot of issues for a small municipality. Obviously, I think we provide pretty good service, and there's room for improvement. So your comments are well received. I suppose it's good to know that somebody's pleased.
The staff have a little emergency handbook for emergency responses during office hours and stuff, and I point out Myron is the author of that. He thankfully wrote that for us in our last term.
Yeah, I've offered to do some training on that one with the new stuff too. Fred, I didn't tell you. So it's in Ann's.
Got my back.
Fantastic, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, it's an ongoing process, and you hear that there's a committee being struck pretty soon, so we'll be talking to you about that as well. Scott, did you want to say something?
No.
You sure?
I don't know, did I say something that's asked, did you brought that up?
No? No? Anything? You just sat there so patiently.
No, not at all. Good worship.
Please. Now you can't say anything.
That's right.
Okay, so I see no further public questions and comments. I now move that the Village of Lions Bay Council does close the October 6, 2015 regular council meeting to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the Community Charter: 91, part of the council meeting, to labour relations, other employee relations. Second? All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Okay, everybody who shouldn't be here shouldn't be here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going. Okay, so it's 10:28 and we're reporting out from the closed meeting, and there's one item to report out that the Village of Lions Bay Council approves interim CAO Anne Yancey to initiate an external posting for the position of permanent CAO and to create a structured recruitment process to manage the recruitment. With that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the council. Second, all in favour? Opposed? Carried. Meeting adjourned. 10:28 and a half.